Good morning. Welcome to Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Tiffany Anderson, the minister of this church, and my pronouns are she and her. It is wonderful to be with this community of world changers today. Happy Pride Month. Ursula Wolf-Rocca says, it can be overwhelming to witness, experience, take in all the injustices of the moment, but the good news is they're connected. So if your little corner of work involves pulling at one of the threads, you're helping unravel the whole darn cloth. One thread at a time, one step at a time. It's the way things get done. So let's sing our opening hymn, number 168 in your thicker gray hymnal. One more step. Please rise with us in body or spirit to sing hymn number 168. The words will also be on your screens. Today's call to worship is one more prayer written by Unitarian Universalist minister Laura Horton Ludwig. This is the imprint of love. Spirit of life and love, light within and without, mystery from which we have all emerged, within which we live and die. Be with us now as we allow ourselves to drop into the silence and stillness at the center of our being. As people of faith, we seek to live in a spirit of love, a spirit of community, justice, and peace. And yet in so many corners of the world, both far and near, we see divisiveness and hate. If we look deep within ourselves, perhaps we will even find those shadow energies there too. We struggle to respond to the outer world and our inner dramas in ways that manifest love. At times we may fear that love will not be strong enough. At times we may question whether love really is at the root of all things. In this world with so much struggle and suffering and discord, we may struggle to hold on to our faith in love, knowing that if all things come from the one source we proclaim, that source must somehow hold hate as well as love, violence as well as peace, evil as well as good. This is the mystery within which we live and die. These are the questions that haunt our days and nights. And yet we are not without hope. Our struggles and our questions testify to our longing for peace, for love, Our very longings are born out of that mystery we dare to address as spirit of life and love. In the stillness and silence of our own heart, we read the imprint of love, created not by our own will, but planted there for us to discover, by what or whom we cannot know, and yet it is there, a clue, a talisman, a beacon, a light within. May it keep hope alive even as we dwell in mystery. May it guide us all as we seek to act wisely and well. May it help us to be vessels of compassion for one another and for our world. Please sit with us in silence as we center ourselves.
Good morning. I'm Wanda. I'm your service leader this morning. Vessels of compassion, I like that. We can hold that thought for us. If you are visiting with us the first time, I extend a special welcome to you. If you have little ones that need the nursery, fill us back at the visitor table. We'll help you get there and give you those directions. Younger kids are always welcome in our sanctuary. But a good reminder here. Please silence your cell phones. Make sure you take a look at them and make sure that they really are off so your visitors and your presenters will be appreciative. The lighting of our chalice is a sacred part for me, I think. It is uniquely Unitarian Universalist because we celebrate power and compassion in our community. Our chalice had its origin, the symbol itself, in World War II, whenever the papers of people fleeing Nazi persecution were allowed to leave on boats, and if they had that chalice symbol, they got safe passage. Here in our community today, we connect the lighting of our chalice with the words of our vision statement. Not just words, but messages to our heart that remind us of how well we work together as a church to transform ourselves, our community, and our world by sharing love, pursuing justice, and seeking wonder.
Once upon a time, in a place very far away from here, very long ago, before internets and phones, before cars and running water and grocery stores, there was a village full of people doing their best to be good people. Most of them were farmers. They worked hard all day to grow crops, tend orchards, and raise the animals that they needed to eat in order to survive. And when the day was finally done, they would gather in the common room of the town's only inn to unwind. But they had a problem.
We have got to figure out what to do about Nico.
Yes, we really do. It's tragic what happened with his parents, and now he's orphaned and all alone. He'll starve if we don't intervene.
But what can we do? It's been a hard year for all of us. Could there be some sort of job he can do?
You know, I think I might have something that could work. What if he watched the sheep for us at night?
You don't think it'd be too dangerous?
Well, what if we told him that if he sees a wolf coming, he yells out for help and the village will come running up to protect him?
Brilliant. This couldn't possibly go wrong in any way. Let's go tell him the good news.
And the first night passed without incident for the villagers. The boy stayed on the dark hill with the sheep, cold, lonely, and jumping at every noise he heard. But the second night he heard a distant howl, and even though it was probably far, far away, he lost his nerve and cried for help.
Help, help, there's a wolf. Won't you come help? Won't you come save me?
Is there a danger?
Never fear. We are here to rescue from the vicious beast.
Oh, thank you for coming. You must have scared them off. What a relief.
Well, okay. Glad to help. Keep up the good work.
Do you guys want to, hang out by the fire for a bit?
No, it's cold out there. See you later, kiddo.
The next night and the night after that, the boy watched and waited all through the night. And even when he heard some scary noises, he tried to be brave. But he also had a lot of time to think. And the more he thought about his situation, he eventually settled on his truth about what he was experiencing.
This is just not fair.
Night after night, this feeling grew until one day, thinking about the villagers warm in their beds, he called out into the peace of the night.
Help, help, there's a wolf. Won't you come help? Won't you come save me?
And the villagers came running.
Is there danger?
Never fear. We're here to rescue you from the vicious beast.
Oh, thank you so much for coming to rescue me. The wolves must have been chased away. My heroes. You came all the way out of your warm homes just for little old me.
You're welcome.
The next night, he called for help again.
Help, help. There's a wolf. Won't you come help? Won't you come save me?
And the villagers trudged wearily to the hill where the sheep were resting for the night. And when the boy saw their tired and frustrated faces, he could not help but laugh.
You should see your faces.
If you don't watch it, you might just find yourself without help when you really need it.
And if this was a different story, about a different village, and a different boy left by himself to watch the sheep all alone, that might have been exactly what happened. But as the villagers walked home in the cold and the dark, something different did happen.
I'm so frustrated. It's cold and dark and drizzling rain, and we've been kept out away from our beds and homes 2 nights in a row. And this is just miserable.
It really is. Gosh, do you remember when all of us had to take a turn doing that job? I hated it when it was my turn.
Yeah, me too. It's just the worst.
And now we're asking Nico to do it every night by himself.
If I had to sit out there by myself every night, I just might do something drastic, like...
Like calling everyone out of their warm, comfortable homes?
Yeah.
Tell you what, Charlie, I'm going to go up and finish the night on the hill. Could you bring Nico back to your place for the night?
Yeah, Wanda, let's do that. We can find something different and better for Nico to do for the village tomorrow.
And even if no one lived happily ever after, life was better for everyone from that point forward. The end. With a quiet and attentive spirit all the way through until we sing our meditative hymn. Today, in this quiet space where all are loved and worthy of love, we remember all that we are joyful and grateful for. I'm grateful for you guys, for the dawning summer, for video screens that work this week, and for the labor behind that working. Today, in this quiet space where the things that we carry do not have to be carried alone, we remember all that we hold grief for and concern about. We light a candle in sorrow as we approach the anniversary of the Pulse nightclub shooting this week. for all vulnerable communities facing oppression, and for all affected by gun violence. We light a candle for Rune, who says, "Please lend me support as I deal with my emotions as my father's illness takes him." We light a candle of stubborn resistance and spiritual support for people serving in the military, and especially military chaplains. Just recently, the faiths officially recognized and coded for spiritual support by the military were reduced from 211 all the way down to 31. Included among those removed from the list are Unitarian Universalists, humanists, and a variety of pagan identities. 22 of the 31 that remain are sub-varieties of Christianity. While government paperwork can provide legitimacy, protection, and support, we know that there are deeper and higher messengers of truth and identity than what will and will not be recognized by a bureaucratic nightmare. And we will keep on proclaiming the deeper truths of our vibrant faith, that we are all worthy of respect and dignity and opportunities to thrive and be seen and be loved, that we are all interconnected with one another, and that love is more powerful than hate. It is my prayer that our military chaplains, some of whom are Unitarian Universalist, seek, find, and support our military personnel who now have to check the nondescript other religions box. A candle for immigrants and their families. And we remember those who are not with us today, but are ever in our hearts and minds. We entrust all that we are holding, the good and the bad, to the care of our community and to the forces of goodness and love that are available to all of us. We invite any who need to come to this table to light a candle for your joys and sorrows, or raise your hand, and I will light a candle for you. goes unspoken in our hearts and minds.
Awesome job, man. The broken record spins. He said something crazy today, Pop. He said something crazy today, Pop. He said something crazy today, Pop. I long to throw this numbing weight off my soul. Each day the outrage machine strafes our inner peace with a barrage of blasphemies to the human spirit. It feels like we're all floating in a sea of vomit and offal, unable to see clearly through the choking miasma, the light of the other bright sparks we each know are out there. I am deathly tired of hearing the bleating of those who fearfully grasp toward an empty heaven, who covet the dreadful power to make all bow to the Prince of Peace at the point of a gun, who are always busy devising new ways of making needles large enough for bloated camels to waddle through. They reduce the divine to the idol of themselves, a gilded, monstrously grinning statue of their own grotesque impulses, a cheap knockoff God. They pray for the deaths of all of us who are not made in their image. Enough. Enough. I run my hands through the sacred mother dirt, bathe in the green filtered light, plant my feet on the ancient stone, and pour water on the tiny fecund seeds of joy. I put on my miracle suit and dance in the most awkward and genuine way possible, extending my hand to any who will hold it gently. I will keep breathing, though it's hard. I will keep loving, though it's harder. One day we'll turn off the record player, take that damn broken record and crush it into tiny pieces. I've got a whole collection of better tunes to groove to, and I'll bet you do too.
Thank you, Wendy. Wendy neglected to mention that that was a poem of her own writing. Thank you so much for that gift. I will keep breathing though it's hard. I will keep loving though it's harder. Amen. Let's go to coffee hour. Thank you for that poem that spoke so well to the feelings that we are holding when we witness evil in the world, as well as the invitation to do something different, to pivot our energy in the face of evil. Evil's such a loaded word, isn't it? One that we're reluctant to use. Reluctant because we've seen what happens when people are labeled as evil. It's a step towards dehumanization. And as a community that is built upon the moral imperative to honor the inherent worth and dignity of every person, whatever we know that we don't want to dehumanize people. So talking about what evil is and what evil isn't, or even if it even exists, and if it does exist, what we can do about it, this is a cluster of big questions that we've been asked to explore today. And we are here as a community to explore big questions together, even hard ones, and this is a hard one. Evil as a concept can be slippery, and it conjures up wild images like devils, mustache-twirling villains, and over-the-top cartoonish characters like Dr. Evil from the Austin Power movies. And don't forget that he's Dr. Evil. He didn't spend 6 years in evil medical school to be called Mr. Thank you very much. But in real life, evil doesn't name itself as such, but benefits from hiding itself and its purposes. And so we have to wrestle with the big questions. When we look at evil from a theological lens, it really becomes a question about human nature. I'm going to attempt to review the history of the prevailing beliefs about human nature and evil in Western thought all the way up to our current situation, and then take a look at what our response can be. This is history of thought from the Western perspective, because that is what reflects in the dominant culture that we experience in our day-to-day lives. There are other approaches, but today I'm already biting off more than I can chew, so I'm talking about the environment of thought that has created what we are living in right now. It all began as a wrestling with tragedy and human suffering. Why do bad things happen? Some human suffering could be explained by human choice and human behavior. That person is suffering because that other person was cruel to them. That person is suffering because a more powerful country invaded theirs and is exploiting them. That person is suffering because even though we told him not to touch a hot stove, he did. But that leaves a lot unexplained, like earthquakes, plague, bad luck. The Greek philosopher Epicurus gave us the original formulation of the problem of evil. If evil is real, then either God or the gods cannot be good, or God or the gods cannot be all-powerful. The concept of original sin, which emerged within early Christianity, provided one option for answering this problem: that when humans separated themselves from the benevolence of God by rebelling, the earth itself felt the ripple effects of our choice, and now evil things happen. But more than that, humans themselves are born evil. Our factory settings are rotten, according to original sin. And this foundational belief that human nature is inherently evil made everyone really dependent on the church for redemption. This was one of the big points that humanist thinkers began to push back against beginning in the Renaissance. Erasmus in the late 1400s and early 1500s was one of the first to challenge the idea of original sin. He proposed that the best parts of human nature could emerge through reading and education. In the 1700s, Jean-Jacques Rousseau argued that humans were naturally good, but corrupted by corrupt institutions. And around the same time, Voltaire was calling back to the logic of Epicurus's problem of evil and pointing out that the doctrine of original sin was an awfully convenient source of power for the church when they had a monopoly on the only cure, their rituals, which conveyed forgiveness and purification. Not long after that, Unitarian minister William Ellery Channing began laying a theological basis for a much more positive view of human nature, that we are created in God's image. Channing said, the divinity within us makes us more and more partakers of the moral perfection of the supreme being. What a shift. Liberal theological thought, with our identity being aligned with the likeness of God, became profoundly optimistic about human nature. I imagine it was a collective breath of fresh air. From there, we had the social gospel movement that asserted that Christianity was not about individual salvation, but about helping all of us have better lives. This is where the ideas of the beloved community come from, that we are not striving for heaven in some other plane of existence, but are laboring to birth heaven right here, right now, for all of us. Liberal Unitarian Universalist theologian Paul Razor describes this change, which gave birth to the modern era and modern thought at the end of the 19th century, as containing, quote, a sense of self-confident optimism and inevitable progress. It must have been heady indeed to be part of that time where we were shifting our collective framework from humans are just the worst to humans are just the best. What did this shift do to the idea of evil, though? Well, evil became way less important. And some even decided that the key to that puzzling formulation of the problem of evil became much simpler if we decided that nothing was actually really and truly ever evil. People really believed that all our social ills could be cured by more education and better technology. That human goodness would prevail if we could just get out of our way. Progress was inevitable and infinite. This point of view survived, at least among those with enough privilege to protect them from the worst parts of life, up until World War II. That was a real shifting point, a moment of disillusionment that challenged us to once again consider that maybe humans are capable of great evil. Maybe not original sin anymore, where we are born depraved, but in the wake of genocide and atomic bombs, perhaps the best word for certain actions really is the word evil. The optimistic, modern, thoroughly confident point of view that humanity will just naturally keep on progressing, keep on evolving toward goodness was lost, and the postmodern period of disillusionment emerged. Theologian Paul Lakeland explores how this disillusionment has led to a couple of different postmodern personality types. And one of those types that he brought up are those that have abandoned the quest for truth and meaning in the face of uncertainty and instead embrace celebrity and the shallowest facets of pop culture. At the time of his writing, he had identified this group's stance as amoral rather than immoral. But I wonder how that has evolved as celebrities are cashing in on their fame to attach themselves to structures of power and bringing their followers with them, and how civil service has too often become intertwined with celebrity status. Others reacted to disillusionment by retreating back to older theologies and values, getting back on that original sin wagon, and I'm sure we've encountered people like that. And others still saw this disillusionment as an invitation to wrestle with greater complexity when it comes to matters of human nature. And I believe that that's where most of us have ended up that are here today, wrestling with the complexity. In that complexity, we can let go of clinging to one extreme or the other and truly observe the world around us. And when we do this, we can see so much of what humanity is capable of, both the good and the evil. I've seen criminals become more than the worst thing that they've ever done. That's actually kind of the slogan of UU Prison Ministries, that all of us are better than our worst day. And thank goodness for that. And I've also seen how absolutely any of us can become so convinced of our own goodness and rightness that we run the risk of doing real harm in our carelessness. So for me, I do think that evil is real, but that people aren't evil ever. People certainly do evil things, and there are definitely exploitative systems and institutions that are evil, but people always have a choice. Will we create heaven or will we create hell? It's our choice. Another aspect of this postmodern age is a loss of certainty. Sometimes we feel like we cannot say anything definitive anymore, which is why I think current circumstances are calling us to speak truth to power and to call actions evil when they are evil. But in both politics and business, moral relativism is on the rise. In Stephanie Sterling's YouTube video essay titled, "Because It's Wrong, A Moral Look at Tech and Game Executives," she explores the harmful effects of taking questions of ethics and morality out of business, citing the same tired excuses that we hear over and over again. Companies exist to make money, and it's nothing personal, it's just business, which is all just a dressed up way of saying that the ends justify the means, even when those means are ruining the lives of so many people for the sake of making someone richer. She talks about how no one is saying that we shouldn't be exploiting people in our natural world just because it's wrong, because so many have accepted that it's just business exempts people from having to consider the ethics of the choices that they're making. A compartmentalization that allows them to be callous to others as long as it's to keep their shareholders happy. She says, and I quote, "You can also argue that morality is subjective, which is true, but is it any more or less subjective than which sellers of addictive substances is a business and which is a criminal enterprise? Is it any more subjective than the legal way in which you can poison a public water supply? Is it any more subjective than what counts as copyright infringement these days? You tell me if judging an act on basic right and wrong is less valid than judging it based on how rich the perpetrator is." And so here we are. It's wild to think that churches are once again in the position of saying what's right and wrong, what is objectively evil, after decades of avoiding that discourse. Largely because for so long, progressive folks like us have been on the shaming end of that judging finger wag, and we don't want to be doing that to others. But the conversation about evil is shifting. It's not about what consenting adults are doing in their bedrooms, but about how systems are killing people. And maybe when we're talking about real harm, systems of evil, things that are literally killing people, then maybe we should judge, just a little. Not the person, but the action. So, if real evil is happening in the world, what do we do about it? Is there more we can do than despair? Wendy's poem has the right idea. Speaking the truth as we see it is important, rejecting the soothing lies. And then we garden, and we dance, and we care for one another. We create goodness in our lives and in the lives of others. Becky Brooks, a mother and Unitarian Universalist director of religious education, reflected on how her family made sense of the evil committed at the Pulse nightclub shooting a decade ago this week in a Braver, Wiser blog post. I feel like there is so much wisdom for us in how to move forward in the face of evil that I'm going to read her post in its entirety to close out this sermon. By the time karate class rolled around Monday evening, I was still dazed. The day before, June 12th, 2016, my kids wanted to know why their parents were so sad. I told them that I was crying for a really big group of people who died in the night, 50 people. We got out their blocks to count and see what 50 looked like, and we agreed that 50 looked like an awful lot. I set one block aside and explained that one person had killed the others with a gun. Why? Who were they? The kids wanted to know. They're like us, I said, and different too. They were Latinx like your aunt and cousins, queer like your parents, black like our neighbors, Muslim like your uncle, trans like some of our friends. There were moms and dads and parents and sons and daughters and beloved adult children, siblings, partners, and friends. I asked if they wanted to send good wishes to the people who died. My son slid that one separated block back over to be with the other 49 and said, yes, let's send them good wishes. And so we did. The next day, I wasn't surprised when the mom of one of my daughter's friends plopped down on the bench next to me during karate. Julia and her husband were always at the dojo with their son, but I was surprised when she handed me a small paper plate heaped high with homemade mini muffins, secured with cling wrap. I laughed for the first time in nearly 2 days. Thanks. What's this for? I asked. Julia's eyes were red. I just didn't know what else to do, she said. What do we do in the face of evil? Anything. Everything. Pray, protest, bake, hug, grieve, wail, laugh, explain, linger, research, fight, cry. What we absolutely must not do is ignore it. On the way to the car, my daughter asked, "Why did Miss Julia make us muffins?" Because she loves us, I explained, just the way we are. Love is the most important thing, she affirmed. She closes out that blog post by saying, when you don't know what to do the next thing with love. I give thanks to the wisdom of Becky Brooks, who invites us to pray, protest, bake, hug, grieve, wail, laugh, explain, linger, research, fight, and cry. May we possess such wisdom, courage, and perseverance in the face of evil in any of its forms, and that whenever possible, we do it together.
One thing that we do to combat evil is that we follow the words that were so beautifully sung by Anne. I promise I'm not singing these, but they're so powerful that it would bear repeating. When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, for your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on, with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Thank you, Anne. Before we close, I have some very poignant announcements. It's an opportunity for us to become vessels of our compassion. If you're here today, I say welcome to you again, and please share our social hour straight through those big doors there. We promise that we are friendly and would enjoy meeting you and talking to you. If you grab a cup of coffee or something to drink, come back into this sanctuary at 12:30, for we've got an information and sharing session that trying to explore exactly what might need to happen or could happen after half of our service, when we talk about another type of alternative programming for our kids who might not be too interested in sitting through some of the sermons. So come back into this sanctuary to hear that discussion and share. Child care will be provided for ones of you that wish to attend. Next Sunday is our usual second Sunday potluck. You're welcome to come and join again to socialize and be uplifted in that arena. And something exciting that's happening here is we have a new committee called our Hands team, and that team is being formed right now. Beth Calvert is right there, and she can answer a lot of questions if you have them, but generally it's just to help out in a variety of different ways. So if you have a need and you think you might need some help, then contact the Helping Hands Committee and find out if you want to lend your hand or if you want to have a helping hand as well. So that's being formed and in the formation to stand right now, and has already done some nice things for people here in our church family. Friday night is the family board game, night game, Friday, June 2nd. So come with your board intact, or we already have a bunch of those. So it starts at 5:30. If you're inclined to share your expertise on a board game, then you're certainly welcome. And mark your calendar upcoming in August for something pretty exciting. It's a concert going to happen on August 16th. That's here after church in our sanctuary, when Flaming Grant is going to share drag artistry and musical excellence. She's been all over the United States and the world, so don't hesitate to come and be uplifted by the music provided by Flaming Grant. If you have other interests, check out our webpage, because there's a bunch of things on the event section that I might not have covered today. Please peruse those and find your spot. Find a way that you can contribute to your church family here. In closing, our closing hymn is in the teal hymnal on 1018. I think it's back on the screen, certainly is. It's an invitation to move closer together in a world that might not be so friendly sometimes, and we are creating this world together. Hymn number 1018. Please make sure that you present your pledge or your offering as the plate goes by. We are grateful for your pledge, and we also are grateful for any amount that you happen to share with us today. So please stand as you're able and sing 1018, Come and Go With Me.
your generosity this week and every week. May your gifts nurture our shared ministry in the world we have been called to love. Here is our benediction. May justice lead us to the calling of this moment. May wonder meet us right where we're at. May we discover our collaborators and our companions, and may love guide us on this journey of transformation. Blessed be, amen, and go in peace.
Yay,